When we look at our spiritual aspirations, sometimes it can feel like we're starting again from the beginning. Many times we fall down and have to pick ourselves up again. Whether we succumb to temptations, desires, uncontrolled anger, or experience heartache. It's easy to imagine ourselves being more spiritually minded, but we may not always know how to achieve this or what steps to take. In the first lesson, we explore a beautifully simple way to bring a more spiritual mindset into our daily lives. Today we're looking at understanding our own spiritual awakening, and we're using a story of a young bride on the night before her wedding. I want you to picture the scene. All the family and relatives have gathered round. There are elders there who are singing songs to the young bride, songs of advice about what life is going to be like. How do you have marital bliss? And amongst all of those elders, there's one elder in particular who is of key importance. And in Punjabi cultures, that person is called the Vichola. Vichola literally means the mediator or the introducer, the one who introduced the bride to the groom, the one who arranged this whole marriage together. And when we're looking at the Sohila verse, it's almost like it's written from that person's perspective. It's that person's advice. And what the Vichola does is they take responsibility for that introduction. They're almost vouching for both of them. They're saying, put your trust in me because I've met this other person. They're a great person, and vice versa. They're the ones who ensure that this is a good match. And even after marriage, the Vichola acts as the mediator. Even if there's any problems, you go back to that and say, hey, things aren't quite working out, and they sort of step in and give you their advice. And when we look at that setup, this is the picture that's being painted within the words of the Sohila verse. We realize that the Guru is stepping into that role. And the Guru is speaking to all of his students and saying, listen to my words, I have advice for you. I've been there, I've done it, I know what it looks like. I know how to help you get there. So let's look at the words of the Sohila, the first verse. Sohila begins, in a home where divine praises are spoken and the Creator has been contemplated, in that home, sing the song of joy and remember the Creator. O bride, you should sing the joyful song of my fearless Master. I surrender to that song which brings everlasting peace. Pause and reflect. Jai kar kirat akhiye, karte ka hoy bicharo, tit kar gavo Sohila, sivriyo sirjanharo. Tum gavo mere nirpau ka Sohila, hoं वारी जित सोहिला सदा सुख होए रहाओ. So in the opening line alone, the Guru gives 3 pieces of advice. The elder gives 3 pieces of advice to the inexperienced bride. Jai kar kirat akhiye, karte ka hoy bicharo. If there's a home within which divine praises are being spoken and the Creator is being contemplated, go find that home. This is the advice from the Guru to us who doesn't know what oneness is. Go find a spiritual home where the divine has been understood and it's being praised. Praises are being sung. And when you're there, Tetakar Gavo Sohila. In that home, you should also go and sing. Go and sing the song of joy that the other spiritual masters in that home are singing. Sivriyo sirjanharo. And remember the Creator. So there's 3 pieces of advice. Go find that spiritual home, join in with what they're doing, and remember that divine Creator. So let's break these concepts down a little bit more. What is a spiritual home? And the analogy being used here is like the bride is going to her new home and the elder women are advising her of how to live wedded bliss. In the same way, the Guru is advising us that we must also go to a spiritual home. But what is a spiritual home? What does that even look like? Well, that's what's been described. Jai kar kirat akhiye. If there's a home within which the divine praises are spoken and the Creator has been understood, go there. Go and find that place where spiritual seekers are meeting, where spiritual masters are discussing, where they're singing its praises, where they're contemplating and trying to understand more. Where this wisdom is being discussed, go and find that place. So that's the first instruction. Spend time with those who are spiritually wiser than you. So you may have heard about oneness, you may have heard about what this idea is, and sometimes we get an idea in our own minds. I think I'll just figure it out by myself. I don't need any other religion. I don't need anyone to tell me. I don't need some ancient book that's written thousands of years ago. How's that going to help me? Surely wisdom that's modern and up to date is more relevant. So sometimes we have these ways of thinking. And the advice here is, okay, don't read anything. Don't go anywhere special. But like in any profession, if you want to master it, go and find a mentor. If you want to be a business professional, go and find somebody who you can mentor, who you can learn from. Just shadow them. Spend time with them and see how they do things. If you want to excel in a particular sport, go and find a trainer. Go and find somebody who can do it. You're not going to get very far on your own. You will get much further with somebody who's already excelled in that field. And so the same is true for spirituality as well. For spiritual development, the first piece of advice is go and find the right people. Spend time with those who are spiritually wiser than yourself. And we would call that a spiritual community. The terminology within the Gurmat tradition is called the Sadh Sangat, the spiritual community, the community of the spiritually wise. And who are the spiritually wise? The ones who are speaking of oneness, the ones who know how to speak this language, who know how to talk about, who know their subject matter, who have found it and are singing its praises, saying, hey, come on guys, let me help you find this thing as well. The ones who remind you what is absolutely true in life. They're just eternally real. Now, this raises another question. Where do I find these people? How do I go and begin this search? And I have to be honest, this is actually something that I struggled with for quite some time. I've been part of the Sikh spiritual tradition my whole life, and time again, this wisdom I've come across, go and find spiritual masters. And the question that's been in my mind is, what qualifications do I have to determine whether somebody else is enlightened? How can I tell? They could be faking it. There could be so many charlatans out there who sound like they know what they're talking about, but may not have experienced it. So who am I to go and figure out who is enlightened? How do I know who's credible? How do I know, even if somebody is credible, whether they can actually explain it to me in a way that's understandable, that can make it relatable to my life? And this is something that I contemplated for a long time until I realized something. The Guru Granth Sahib is a spiritual text written exclusively by spiritual masters. The work has already been done for us. The spiritual masters have already been collected into one very unique text. It's not like the Bible, it's not like the Bhagavad Gita, it's not like the Quran. It's a very different type of text. And for those of you who know a little bit about the background of the text called the Guru Granth Sahib, it was compiled by the fifth Guru of the Sikh tradition called Guru Arjan Dev Ji. And he actually brought together verses from various spiritual masters, from various spiritual traditions, from many different time frames. And so the Guru actually compiled this together and has done the work for us, has sorted out the wisdom for us and put it all together in a way that we can understand. So the Guru Granth Sahib is a collection of spiritual songs. It's a collection of divine masters teaching this wisdom of oneness. And remember I said that there are masters who don't teach this wisdom. who just keep it to themselves. When those spiritual masters connected, when they understood what oneness was, when they realized the divine, the words that poured out have been collected into the Guru Granth Sahib. And a lot of them are done in the form of song. So for me, and I can only speak for myself, for me, Guru Granth Sahib is that spiritual home, because I have no other way of knowing whether any other master out there is truly qualified. So it actually takes a master to know one. So this is the place that I go to actually find that spiritual wisdom. Have you found that spiritual teachings are great to learn, but not always easy to apply to your own life? Sometimes we all need a bit of support and guidance from people who know what we're going through and can help us find some answers. The Nanak Naam Facebook group helps you do just that. It's an online community where you can ask any questions about life and get answers from other members of the group. Search for Nanak Naam Community Support and join our free Facebook group today. Now, that's the first instruction. Go find the spiritual wisdom. The next question is, well, what do I do with this spiritual wisdom? And the second instruction is to sing this wisdom. Sing in the same way that the masters are singing. Now, again, there are so many concepts here that need to be understood. Song is essential to Guru Nanak's enlightenment technique. And it's very different when we think about spiritual wisdom today. We don't really see singing as a spiritual technique. But Guru Nanak's entire philosophy is based around understanding music, melody, and song. In fact, he talks about the whole universe as one universal song, Ik Oankar, one universal vibration that's going on. And when you understand how to sing properly, you will connect your song with that divine song. That's what this methodology is. And sometimes people have even called Guru Nanak the singing guru, the guru that gained enlightenment through song. What's interesting about Guru Granth Sahib is it's not a book that's meant to be read from start to finish. It's not compiled in that way. Unlike the Bible, which is a collection of books, unlike the Bhagavad Gita, which is a number of chapters, the Guru Granth Sahib is not written to be read from start to finish. The Guru Granth Sahib is just a collection of spiritual songs. And each song contains all of enlightenment within that song. This is why I say it's a very unique tradition. Each song has the ability to enlighten you. Just think about that for a moment. 5, 10 words, 5, 10 lines has the ability to awaken you. And this is what the spiritual tradition of Guru Nanak is. So each song is self-contained and has the ability to enlighten you. And that's because these songs are not just songs that you and I can write. These songs are coming from a deeper place. These spiritual masters have connected with oneness, and they themselves have created a song that can connect you back with that oneness. So they've overcome the problems that we have in our life. They've overcome worries. They've overcome the concerns that our minds, you and I have. And they've realized that life is a melody. Life is in constant joy. And out of that joy, life is dancing. Something for us to think about here. This music and song analogy really starts to become interesting for us. Think about how you and I look at life. We see this constant battle between good things and bad things happening. Some days are good, some days are bad. Some days we're happy, some days we're sad. We see creation and destruction as these two opposite things that are going on, birth and death. The spiritual masters, they see something different. They see one thing going through many different phases. They see all the changes in life as though life is just playing with itself. Life is dancing with itself and just dancing to its own melody, playing with itself and enjoying its own tune. And in various Eastern spiritual traditions, this has actually been represented in many different ways. This has been represented by Krishna playing his flute, by Shiva beating his drum. Even the Chinese word Tao just means the flow of the universe, the way of life. That's what this is talking about. There is a flow to the universe, and there are spiritual masters who have seen it and who have become one with it, and they start singing the song of life. So Sohila is showing you how to connect with that melody, making that part of your spiritual experience. And how does it do it? It uses the most simple technique, which is singing. And it sounds so simple. You think, I can do that. I might not enjoy meditation. I might not be able to do very difficult things in life. I might not be able to keep very strict religious practices, but I can sing. It might not sound very good to anybody else, but we all know that we can sing in the shower. So this is a very simple technique. And Guru Nanak wants to make spirituality very simple for you to access. And he says that you don't need any other spiritual clothes. You don't need any special garments. You don't need to go to any special place. You don't need to be sitting in some special meditative pose. You don't even need a specific time of day, at any time. So this is a very powerful method that you can use while you're going about your day-to-day life. And I want to give you an example in my own life of the power of song. I've noticed that songs have the ability to instantly change my mood. And I'm sure you would have seen the same thing in your own life. If there's ever a time when I'm carrying negativity, when I've got a feeling of low self-worth, something's gone wrong in my life, if I begin to start questioning life, I've now been able to realize this isn't a reality. This is just me focusing on some small detail at this very moment that's skewing my whole way of looking at life. And sometimes when I'm aware enough, I'll actually just go and play some music. And I'll notice that instant shift, it just like that takes me out of that very low, dark feeling. It takes me away from that problem that I'm focusing on. And I realized that I didn't need to hold on to that. I was just grabbing something and really letting it drag me down. So still today, I use music as a way to immediately shift my mood. Now, if you take music and combine spiritual words with it, that's where it really takes you to a new place. So once you combine music with that spiritual wisdom, there's an immediate shift that happens within you. It's a shift in thoughts. And all of a sudden, you can just be in a completely different space that says, I've got so much to be grateful for. I've got so many things to appreciate in life. I just needed to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. And this is something, the reason I'm sharing it with you is this is something that took me a long time to realize. For a really long time, I actually believed that enlightenment still had some missing piece of the puzzle that I hadn't actually read. There was some wisdom that I hadn't quite come across yet. There were some lectures that I still needed to hear and some secret or trick that was waiting to be found, that I hadn't found my time yet. And it's because no matter how great my own spiritual journey has been and whatever I've experienced in my life, I would find myself falling back to my old ways. So I'm beating myself up thinking, well, where's this everlasting divine experience that the spiritual masters are talking about? I would fall back into my daily worries, into my ego. And what I realized was, it wasn't that I was missing some trick. It was that the tool that I had available to me, I wasn't using all the time. And the tool is song. For me, the tool is spiritual music, spiritual wisdom. The wisdom songs contained within the Guru Granth Sahib is the technique. And as soon as I recite the words, it lifts me back out again. And so I realize this is the missing trick. That as long as I keep forgetting to keep this wisdom going in my mind, then I'm going to keep falling back into my old ways. And think about Guru Nanak Dev Ji, what he's done here. He's not delivered spiritual wisdom in the form of sentences that you just read, in the form of chapters and paragraphs. He's done it in song. Why? Because songs stick in your head. How many times have you had an annoying song just stuck in your head and you just can't shake it? My kids are sometimes singing these kind of babyish kind of songs, and I'm like, oh God, that's it. That's in my head now. I can't get. And for hours, you can't get rid of it until somebody gives you another song. Think about this technique that the Guru has used. He said, I'm going to give you the method of song, but I'm going to place wisdom on top of it. Why? Because he wants that wisdom to stick in your head, and just keep that going. Whenever you feel down, bring that wisdom back in. Bring those songs, bring those enlightenment words back into your mind. That's the purpose of this. And as soon as I sing those songs, I remember again. Now, what do I remember? What does the Master want you to remember? And here the word in the opening line that's been used is two words, Karta and Sirjanhar, and they both mean the word creator. Remember the creator. Now, the word Karta actually has a dual meaning. It means the creator, but it also means the doer of all things. And it's important to understand both these meanings in order to really understand what is it that the wisdom wants you to remember. Because otherwise, if we say the word creator, we kind of inherit all of this old, ancient religious way of thinking about it. And we see the creator as just this religious concept of some guy sitting in the clouds who created the universe. And I want you to forget everything you think you know about the word creator in order to really understand it. We're not talking about some monotheistic God. We're not talking about this intelligent design. If you've ever come across this phrase, many religions say, well, if you see the whole universe around you, everything's been created, right? So if it's been created, then somebody must have created it. So there's a designer behind it all. And that's this very dualistic way of looking at this word creator. And it's almost based on the idea that there's like an artist in his studio and he's doing all these paintings, and the day he painted you, he created you, and then that's it. Like an artist who paints something, as soon as he's used his last brushstroke, he's done with it. He can take a step back from it. And that's how most religions view the creator, as somebody that has created you, created life, created the planets, and then taken a step back. The Eastern spiritual traditions do not see the divine as an artist. They see the divine as a dancer. And that's a very different type of creation. Because an artist can create something and walk away. The dancer and the dance are inseparable. So when Eastern traditions and when Guru Nanak talks about the creator, he's talking about the universal dancer, the singer, the one who is singing right now. You can't separate the song from the singer. As long as he's singing, the song is on. When he stops, the song stops. As long as he's dancing, the dance is on. When the dancer stops, the dance stops. And so this is how we understand this word creator. This creator is not just the one who created and walked away, but it's also doing all the things at this moment in time as well. So another way to think about it. The ocean doesn't just create waves. The ocean is the waves. The ocean and the waves are inseparable. So yes, the ocean is the creator of the waves, but the ocean is the waves as well. So when we're talking about this creator, when we talk about oneness, we're talking about a universal life force that's flowing through all things. It's here, it's now, it's accessible to you and I. In fact, it's doing everything at this very moment. That's what Ik Oankar means. That one that creates all, that is doing all things. And the Guru says, remember the creator. Very specific words have been used here. Because if you don't remember the creator, what are you spending all of your time focusing on? You and I spend our time on the created. We think about that which has been created. I think about my family. I think about things that need to be done around the house. I think about my job, about my responsibilities, all the things that have been made. But the Guru is saying, remember that which is behind it all. Our mind is always focused on the temporary. And so this is the definition of real spirituality, a real spiritual home, where this idea of the creator is being understood and is being taught to one another. And the reason I'm making this very clear distinction is because so many people go on spiritual retreats or are reading spiritual books, and they're doing it for completely the wrong reasons. They're doing it to reduce their stress. They're doing it to learn meditation techniques. They are learning affirmations about how to improve their own life. You know, we go as far as thinking, I'm a co-creator. I'm also creating. I'm just as much of a creator as the universal creator is. This is not real spirituality, because real spirituality does not focus on you. Let me say that again. Real spirituality is not about you. And as long as anything that you think you're doing, which is spiritual, is about improving you and focusing on you, the masters here are saying that's not the real, true spiritual home. The true spiritual home is only one where the divine is being discussed. Nothing to do with you. You are irrelevant in this, because who are you? Who are you and me in this divine play? We're nothing. So if you can step out of that obsession that you have to always think about yourself, you're on the first step to start actually going on this spiritual journey. So this is what focusing on the divine mean. The words bhakti, true devotion, truly absorbed in something else apart from yourself. To almost have that level of devotion that you forget yourself. And I want you to go back into that musician analogy, the dancer, the one who is so lost in the melody that they lose themselves. They forget themselves. The musician that's playing so much that there's not a single thought of them left back in. This is why Guru Nanak is the singing guru, because he wants to lose that sense of self-importance that we all carry around. Me, my problems, what about this, what about that? I need to do this with my life. We just add spirituality as just another thing that we need to do in our life. And we think we're being spiritual. And that's not what music really is. That's not what melody and harmony really is. The best artist is the one that loses themselves in the music. The best dancer is the one that loses themselves in the dance itself. So this is what Kirtan is. This is what Guru Nanak's technique is. And I'm spending a good amount of time trying to understand it, because we really do need to understand how we go about doing it. Simply reading spiritual wisdom isn't enough. Even just singing spiritual wisdom is not enough until you begin to lose yourself. Until your focus moves away from yourself. When you're really starting to praise at such a level that the only thing that's important to you is that which you're praising, and not to try and get something in return. Not to try and make it about you in some way. When you're really reflecting upon that spirit of life, that universal life force that's everywhere. Because just singing, that's not real kirtan. Just singing these verses, reading them, in a robotic way at the end of your day, well, I've got to do it. It's my religious practice. I've just got to get on with it. That's not it. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're not actually starting to go down that spiritual path. If you don't have the right attention, if your attention isn't in the right place, if it isn't about dropping your self-importance and losing yourself and reconnecting with that oneness, then you haven't really begun. And so it's like the wave just talking about the ocean, but never really fully understanding the concept. The only way the wave is going to merge back with the ocean is that if it realizes that it was the ocean to begin with. The only way you're actually going to go on your spiritual journey, connecting with this oneness, is if you begin to realize that that oneness is the one that's here, the one that's doing all things, the one that's creating every moment, the one that's creating the words that are coming out of your mouth, the one that's creating this very moment in all its glory. That is the only thing that's here right now. And so when you begin to realize that, when the wave begins to realize that its very essence is water itself, that's when it goes back into the ocean. So what does this look like? I know we've talked about a lot of different spiritual concepts. When we focus on the spirit of life, when we focus on that creator, we begin to see it in all things. it starts to change how we look at life. What it does is it makes you take a step back from your own self. You're not so engrossed in your own life. And as soon as you take that step back, life starts affecting you less. Your day-to-day scenarios aren't so painful because you don't distinguish between me and the other. It's not about, look what he did to me, look what's happening, look how unfair my life is, I can't believe that's happened to me. That's not the way to look at life through the lens of oneness. When you look at life through oneness, you realize that oneness is doing it to itself. It's dancing with itself. Life is, you don't worry so much that something is happening to you. It's not to you, it's not for you, it just is doing it with itself. And that's that way of taking a step back and looking at life from a neutral perspective. And when we don't distinguish between me and you, that's when we start to become one with the melody of life. So, bhakti is all about using this otherness to lose yourself. And it might sound quite different to some of the things that you may have heard me talk about before. It might actually sound in opposition to this concept of oneness. But bhakti is about seeing the oneness in all and then focusing on it, so much so that you forget yourself. You almost create something else for you to be devoted to, but it's not really something else that's far away. It is the real something that's here in this moment right now. And so we are encouraged to let this experience really seep into us. Let this be a part of your way of looking at life. Let yourself become a part of life's song. And that starts to affect everything. You'll see it when you eat, when you're walking, when you're breathing, when you're sleeping. You'll see it at all moments. Keep that remembrance. This is life. This is not me. This has nothing to do with me. This is all life just acting itself out in various different ways. There's a beautiful analogy that says that life is like one actor on stage playing many different roles. All the different characters that the audience sees is actually the same actor playing all of those different roles. That's what oneness really is. We see the distinctions because we have this ignorance. We like to be fooled that there are many, many different characters on this stage. But the masters are saying, I can see it. I can see the same actor. It's the same guy. I'm enjoying the play in a completely different way, the masters are telling us. I'm enjoying seeing how the actor can act so many different roles. I'm enjoying seeing life through the lens of oneness. And when you begin to see life in that way, it changes how you treat people. Because it's not about me and you anymore. It changes how you see the divine in everything. Everything becomes part of that sacred living. Everything is sacred. So, I know today we're in this world where everybody is just trying to decide whether religion is even relevant anymore. Technology, scientific advancements is moving so far. The idea that God exists is such a weird concept anymore. In fact, most of the world would say that they are atheists. They don't believe in a God. But you don't need to believe in a God. It's fine if you don't believe in a God because the old definition of God is so outdated. In fact, it's so incorrect because we've just created this mythological figure, this God that sits in the clouds. The way to think about it from a true spiritual perspective is, what if you treated life as God? What if everything that you come across, you gave it the respect, the reverence, as though it was the divine creator standing in front of you? That's what sacred living is all about. What would your life be like if you treated every interaction as sacred? If every action was precious? If every event was a gift, was a divine blessing? If you were able to see the divine dancing in front of you in many different ways. This is what it means to focus on the creator, not the created. Don't get lost. Don't get deluded back into the old way of thinking. Understand that there is something behind it all. There's almost a spiritual rule within the Sikh spiritual tradition that says anything that can be created can also be destroyed. And if you focus your attention on something that's being created, know that it can't last forever. Instead, focus on that which is behind it. The creator, the creative life force that's behind it. Don't place your attention on these day-to-day trivial things. And this starts to flavor every single moment in your life. So this is what we're going to be going into. In Sohila, we're going to be looking at how do we actually achieve this. I don't want anything that we talk about to just be conceptual, to just be something that sounds nice, but we don't really know how to achieve it. If you're enjoying watching this video, then we need your support to keep this amazing resource going. Nanak Naam is here to make spiritual wisdom available for everyone. We present the teachings of oneness in a way that's easy to understand and apply to our daily lives. So far, our videos and podcasts have reached people in 170 countries, from Croatia to Nigeria, from Brazil to Japan. And by donating towards the costs of creating these videos, you can help us continue to produce more learning materials that will change people's lives around the globe. Our future videos include more explanations of Gurbani, such as the Lama and Salok Melanoma, as well as our courses on relationships, anger management, addictions, and so many more important subjects. So donate today and join us in our mission to share Guru Nanak's wisdom of oneness around the world. Visit nanaknaam.org and click donate. We're going to be looking at how do we go deeper? How do we look behind the curtain of life? How do we see this song of joy that's constantly playing? And I want you at no point to believe anything that I say. Nothing that I say requires you to believe it. In fact, there's an undeniable aliveness that's in you right now. This is why I'm very careful not to use the word God. Because God is that guy up there that may or may not exist. When people say, I don't know if I believe in God, I say, get rid of that word. Okay, well, what word should we use? I say, well, what about life? Does life exist? Everyone says, yeah, life exists. Has life or the essence of life always existed? Say yes. What about the word universe? Very simple words. If we just replace words like God, divine, creator, all those kind of concepts that become difficult to understand, where is the universe? Well, you say the universe is right here. Is the universe in you? Yes. Is the universe in me? Yes. Is the universe that's in me the same as the universe that's in you? You'll say yes. So start to change your understanding. I don't want you to believe anything. There's an undeniable truth that there is an aliveness inside all of us. And this is what we're calling the spirit of life, the force of life. It's the thing that's making you breathe right now. The scientists will say, oh, you're breathing because of this and this, your lungs are doing this, your muscles are doing that, your blood is circulating around your body because of this and that process. But take a step behind it. There's breathing happening right now, and you have nothing to do with it. Are you breathing, or is breathing happening to you? Think about it. If you had to control your breathing, we'd all be dead by now. Right? If we had to remember to breathe, but breathing is just happening. What is that? What is that aliveness that seems to be flowing, whether we acknowledge it or not? When you cut yourself, how is it that it just heals itself? Again, the scientist will tell you the nitty-gritty detail, but take a moment to take a step back. It's like those superhero movies that you see, where a superhero gets wounded and he looks at it and all of a sudden it just heals itself. Your body's actually doing that. Probably not at the same time frames as they show in the movies, but you look at a wound and over time it just heals itself. Are you doing that? You're not doing that. There is a life force that's just doing it. It's here. It's undeniable. Whether you believe it or not, it's doing it. It's there. It's helping you breathe. It's the stuff that's making the planets move. What is that? It's the stuff that's making your cells function right now. What is that? There's one thing in all of these things, no matter how large or how small, that seems to be just keeping the whole thing going. And you can't quite put your finger on it. There's no one word that seems to fully describe it. It's just there. It's a life force. The only thing that you and I can agree on is that it's real. It's happening. It's undeniably happening right now. It's true, and it's always been there. There's a spirit of life that's always been there, and maybe we just need to find a better word than spirit. And this is why the Guru doesn't care what word you use. Any word will do. In fact, no word is adequate. So whatever word works for you, remember that. And this is where that last word, that last advice to the bride is sivro. Sivrio sirjanharo. It comes from the word simero, to remember it. Remember that. Go to that place in your mind. Stay there. Go to that part of you that focuses on that creative force. Understand it, discuss it, contemplate it, and be in awe of it. Praise it. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it amazing? It's here right now. Whether you're religious, whether you're spiritual and not religious, whether you're an atheist or not, it's here. It's undeniable. And this is a summary of what that spiritual path is. What the Guru is trying to get you to connect with. Remember that. It's interesting that the word sivrio also means serve that. Serve it, remember it. How do we serve it? By remembering it. Bow down to it. Be in awe, be in a sense of humility towards this thing. Look at it, and you only need to look at a starry night and you think, wow, there's something here. And you can't quite put your finger on it. You can't say what it is. We serve everything else in life, don't we? How many other things do we give our time towards? Towards our job and our finances and our family and our pets and all sorts of things. How many things do we serve, and yet this we don't spend any time on? We're serving our own egos more than anything else, our own self-interests. So if we can spend so much time focusing on our job, on our interests, on our hobbies, on our health, we serve our bodies, there's some part of us deep down that knows, but this isn't it, right? There's something inside all of you that knows there must be more. This doesn't satisfy me at the deep core of who I am. And every single one of us knows this. This is why I said I don't want you to believe anything. I want you to all be honest with yourselves. Look deep within yourself and think, is that true? Do I know that there's something even deeper? Something even more meaningful? We all know that our soul is yearning for this. And again, I don't want to throw in spiritual terminology. Whether a soul exists or not is irrelevant. You all know that experience within yourself. And when we go on to the next line within the Sohila, the Guru confirms what we're all longing for. He says, Tum gavo mere nirpau ka Sohila, haun vari jit Sohila sada sukh hoy. You should sing the joyful song of my fearless master. I surrender to that song which brings everlasting peace. So far, look at all the things that we've covered. We've talked about oneness. We've talked about wisdom of that oneness. We've talked about where do we go to find it and what do we do with it. But the most important question is why? Why should we bother? Why not just get on with our life? And in this line, the Guru is explaining why you should go down this path, why the bride should go and find her husband. Because it will solve the things that you're looking for in life. We're all looking to be free from our worries, free from our fears, and we're all looking to find peace. Something that lasts, long-lasting peace and happiness. Oneness has been described as fearless. That thing which is deep within you, which you already have access to. There's a part of you which feels no fear. That spiritual essence that is within all things has nothing to be afraid of. Is this who we are? That's not how I live my life. We're always worried about things. There are always problems in our life. There's always the next thing for us to be concerned about. When we were younger, we were worried about doing well in school or failing our exams. We were worried about not disappointing our families and our parents. We were worried about what their reaction might be. We were worried about not being accepted by our friends and our peers. And then when we've grown up, we've worried about other things. We've worried about our finances, our health, no harm coming to our loved ones. So fear is part and parcel of our life. It's so deep-rooted in everything that we do. And fear is what? Fear is the desire for preservation. Because if we keep things as they are, then we don't have to face uncertainty. Uncertainty is something that we all worry about. And so we're attached to this idea that let's just keep life the same as it is right now. Let's just keep things unchanged because at least we know what this is. So fear plays a big role in what we do and how we do things in life. But this is not what we want. We don't want a life full of fears. We all want to live without worries. And we all know that ultimate peace is only going to come from a time when we don't have anything to worry about. When there are no worries left, that's when we'll be at peace. But the mistake that we make is that we think we have to solve all of our problems to reach a point where there's going to be nothing else to worry about. And any wise elder will tell you that that moment never comes. There's never going to be a time in your life where you've solved every single thing and there's nothing left to worry about. Because guess what? The next thing, the next uncertainty will appear and you won't know how to solve that problem. So the gurus are offering a different solution. The gurus are saying that you need to sing in order to be fearless. In fact, they use very interesting terminology here. The guru says, Tum gavo mere nirpau ka Sohila. You should sing the song of my fearlessness. The guru is saying that I have found a state of fearlessness and you should sing and align with that song that I'm in alignment with. The gurus are confirming their spiritual state. They're saying we found a state of fearlessness. This is why we call them spiritual masters. They have mastered their life to such a place where they're no longer afraid. And there are countless examples of the lives of these masters, of the atrocities that they had to face, and they're doing it with absolute fearlessness, carefree, to the point at which some of these spiritual masters were tortured. Some of these masters were killed. And yet throughout that, history records that they were absolutely radiating with joy, had no worry, no fear. So the masters are saying, we have found this state within us of fearlessness, and you should also find that. And the way to do that is to connect with a song. So let's figure out what that means. In the next line, the Guru says, "Haun vari jit Sohila sada sukh hoy." I surrender to that song which brings everlasting peace. He doesn't say, I sing that song. He says, I have surrendered to the song of life and I found everlasting peace. I let go. I surrendered. Haun vari. I let go. And I let the song just play out. However the song was going to play, I let go of my sense of control, my panic, my worry about what was going to happen next. I let go of my fears. I surrendered and found peace. So surrendering to the song of life is how the masters have found peace. And what the masters are saying is, I am living proof that long-lasting peace is possible, is real, and is available to you. The spiritual masters have always said, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. They've said, we're no one special. We're just going about our day-to-day lives like everybody else. We've got our own families, we've got our own jobs, we've got our own professions, we've got our own circumstances in life that others may consider good or bad. So they've not put themselves in a position that says, you're lower than us. They've said, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. That's why these words are being used to help lift you out of your own darkness. And the masters are saying, how did we do it? When I stopped singing my own song and I just surrendered to the song of life. When I stopped making life about me. Because life is fearless. Life does not care about your opinion. Life does not ask your permission about what to do next. Life is fearless. And so when I've connected with that fearlessness of life and I've dropped all of my worries, when I surrendered, then I began to find peace. I sang its praises. I wasn't just singing my own praises all the time. And you should do that too. Tum gavo mere nirpau ka Sohila. You should also surrender in the same way. That's what you need to do. You need to drop something. Remember we talked about how the mixed emotions of the night before the wedding is? That there's excitement of gaining something new, but there's sadness in dropping something. That's what we're talking about here. You need to let go of some things. And that is so difficult for us to do because we have to let go of old ways of thinking, old habits, our own way of thinking that says, well, it's got me this far in life. Maybe, I don't know. There's a fear that comes that says, I don't know if this guru is true. I don't know if what they're saying is true. So I'll just stick to my old way of doing it. And there's a level of trust that's involved. But you should hopefully be able to see that we're talking about spiritual masters who have really proved that this is possible. They're saying this has happened. So we need to give up something. We need to let go of the idea that we are in control of life. There is no part of the wisdom that says you're on your own. Go and make your own, carve your own path out of life. You need to find your own way. This is what society tells us. But the spiritual masters are saying life has a way. The river is only flowing in one direction. You can either swim with it or you can struggle against it. But the river is going. It's flowing in this particular direction. So we need to remember that fear is about preservation, self-preservation, keeping things unchanged. And fearlessness is about letting go and allowing life to do what it's going to do. Because the wisdom is teaching us again and again, nothing is going to stay with you. What are you going to hold on to? Your relationships aren't always going to be the same. Your circumstances aren't always going to be the same. Your health and your body certainly isn't going to be the same. We know this, and yet we fight it. And that's not to say that we don't look after our bodies. That's not to say that we don't have good relationships and manage and nurture those relationships. But we let go of the fear that says this has always got to stay. Nothing can ever change. No, life is about change. Life is always changing. Day turns into night. Summer turns to winter. All of the change, universe is constantly changing. And so we need to see what's actually happening and then realize, oh, we're also part of that universal song. Change is what life is. Young turns to old. Birth turns into death. That is the song of life. When you can stop resisting and just let go and flow with the flow of life, you'll begin to start becoming more and more fearless. Life starts to affect you less and less. Of course, we continue to look after ourselves. Of course, you live a life full of responsibility, but it's that mental attitude that needs to shift. At any time, you have the ability to let go of your worries. Han vari. The masters are saying, I surrendered. I surrendered to the song of life. And ho vari jit Sohila, I surrendered to that song which brought me everlasting peace. Sada sukh hoye. So this is something that we need to remember now. What is the advice being given to the young bride? What is the advice that the Guru is giving to the mind? Whenever problems arise, whenever worries start to resurface, The solution is to take a step back, to let go, to realize that I may only be able to do so much, but at some point life is going to take over. Life is living in a way that it cannot be harmed. Life cannot be destroyed. We may be, but this is where we lock ourselves into that old way of thinking. Life cannot be destroyed. Life has no fear. There is nothing that can cause harm to life itself. Can we reconnect with that? Because life is always at peace, and guess what? It's within you too. That spirit of life is not something that's far away. It's inside you. It's always peaceful and always fearless. The two things that we want from our life: to be in a sense of joy and to be away from worries. That's in you already. You're just locked in your mind. You're locked in your fears. You're locked in your attachments to the things that you're married to, and you want to keep them all the same. So we've forgotten this truth about ourselves. We've forgotten that there is something inside of us. We forget it every single day. That's where these wisdom songs come back in. They're designed to remind you of what's ultimately true. And the Guru says, I bow down to this wisdom. I'm a sacrifice to this. I surrender myself. I fall at the feet of this amazing wisdom that has transformed my own life. The Guru says, this wisdom is unbelievable, and it's here and it's available to you. You've just got to surrender yourself, humble yourself to this wisdom and say, I'm willing to take this wisdom on. So the mind will find peace when it reconnects with this pure nature that we all have within us. Most people think that life's about chasing. We make our life about solving the next problem and finding the next source of pleasure. This is what we've made our life about. And the truth is, all of these pleasures never last. We know this. We know that pleasures are always going to fade. And we assume that if we don't feel good, it's because we've not got the next thing. There's something more out there. There's something more that needs to be achieved. And we don't know any different. Nobody has guided us. So far, we've just been making it out on our own. We've been trying to figure out life in a way that makes sense to us because we don't see anybody else doing it any different. We're not around the right people. Everybody else seems to be acting in the same way. There's no celebrities. There's no social media influencers. There's no movie stars that are encouraging us to reconnect with this divine oneness. These are the people that we follow. These are the stories and the news and the media that we consume. And so we're lost because everybody seems to be talking about mindfulness and stress relief. Nobody's talking about remember that ultimate creator, that divine spirit. Only the highest masters have achieved this. And there are very few places that you can go to find that home, that spiritual home where you can reconnect, where you can be reminded that there is a state of sada sukh, everlasting peace. That there is a state of mind that says, I'm okay no matter whatever happens in life. So we've covered a lot of concepts. Let's recap. The advice to the young bride, the advice from the Guru to the mind is find a spiritual home. Go to a place where you can learn from these masters and connect with the song of life. Focus on the creator, not the created, and let go of your fears, and you will uncover a deep-rooted peace. And there the Guru uses the word rahao, pause. Take time to let this wisdom sink in. And this is a good moment for us to also pause and reflect. Answer these questions either by writing them down or discussing them in your groups. What is your understanding of Sohila, the joyful song? Do you feel that you've found your spiritual home in life? What are some of your biggest fears and concerns in life? How can we realistically let go of our sense of control? I'm honored to have this opportunity to present this course to you. You can download this course for free today by visiting our website, livingwithwisdom.org.